Ukraine may not be getting its NATO membership, but bloc members are committing to more support for the war-torn country. Japan and South Korea also observers for the third year running, reflecting expanding security concerns as the bloc marks 75 years since its founding. On the story, we're joined by Associate Professor Reuben Wong. He's Deputy Head of the Political Science Department at the National University of Singapore. Thanks for joining us, Professor Wong. Now, we just heard NATO Chief Jens Stoltenberg promising more support for Ukraine. This is in lieu of the membership, or at least invitation to membership, that Ukraine wants. Now, Ukraine wants to join. Sweden, this is the first year at this summit. Sweden is taking part in the NATO summit as a full member. Last year it was Finland. So if we judge an alliance's success and its 75 years of NATO by whether or not people are wanting to be your member, as Ukraine certainly wants to be, is NATO a success at 75 years? Or do you see inherent damaging challenges?
Thank you, Wei-Su. I think you've asked good questions about, how to assess NATO's success at 75 years. I don't think that membership is such a critical component or criterion, because the reason NATO was formed was really for European security, and the United States wanted to make sure there wasn't a Soviet military takeover of mainly Western European countries. And these West European countries at the time formed a North Atlantic Pact in 1949. So if you go by the original mandate of NATO, they've been wildly successful. They've kept the peace. There's not been an invasion or collapse of a member state of NATO since its founding.
All right, but as you say, founded in 1949, there were 12 founding members. Now, this year, there are 32 members. Everything changes with time, let alone the political landscape. In this time, has NATO discovered new commitment, new leadership, new strategies, new reason to stay alive?
Yeah, I think since 1949, of course, there have been various rounds of expansion. And NATO's expansion in the 50s and early 60s, one of the major decisions was actually to expand to include West Germany. Now, this might seem, kind of obvious and non-controversial today, but at that time, Germany had been seen as one of the perpetrators, one of the villains of World War II and, World War I before that. So to include a former enemy in the alliance was a major move, and then after that, NATO was committed to the defense of West Germany. Remember the time West and East Germany were divided, two separate countries, and one was the Eastern Bloc, one was in the Western Bloc. So there was a commitment to defend West Germany and also to defend Berlin at that time, a divided city, so that the East did not take over Berlin.
In fact,
so there have been
Wong,
many high points. Yes.
Pardon me for cutting it. In fact, a special arrangement was made at that point to, I suppose, support the fact that West and East Germany were separated at that point, and Ukraine in various quarters also pushing for some kind of special arrangement to allow it to have some kind of membership and therefore protection under the NATO umbrella before it can become a full member. Now, we're seeing special arrangements such as the IP4, Japan, South Korea taking part as observers because, as both Mr. Stoltenberg has said and the Japanese Prime Minister has said, security now is no longer a transatlantic issue. It is all inextricably linked, to quote our correspondent. They're taking part this year. What's your read on that? Third year running.
Yeah, my read on that, of course, is NATO has been expanding its mandate, not just in recent years, but since the end of the Cold War. Now, of course, in many ways, this is a good thing, good for Western European security, because these countries, in a sense, had won the Cold War, and it was no longer a divided continent. But the expansion also comes with some costs, because when you expand a military alliance, and there is no clear military threat after the Cold War, it makes other countries suspicious. And Russia, of course, was the main victim, in a sense, of this expansion, because they felt that they were being encircled by former Eastern Bloc countries. Now, these were countries that used to be allies of Moscow, and now they're part of the Western US-led bloc. And
pardon me for cutting me, Professor Wong. A final question, because we are short of time.
Yes.
You talk about a lack of clear military threat. In a way, we are not short of military threat right now. You've got Mr. Stoltenberg linking together Iran, China, North Korea, and Russia, each supporting each other in the economy, in politics, in diplomacy, in public rhetoric. Does NATO, has it now found better purpose? Is it fit for purpose, given these many threats, but also very diffuse and multifaceted threats? Final question.
I think this is really mission creep. NATO, founded 75 years ago for the defense of Western Europe, has expanded to include the defense of the whole of Europe, and now this mission creep to, it's not just North Atlantic treaties, they're thinking about Indo-Pacific. So I think NATO has to be careful in how it defines its mission and its whole raison d'etre, because expanding too quickly made Russia insecure. And some of these statements, I think, might not be very good in making sure that other countries in the Asia-Pacific feel secure with NATO's expansion and its expanded mandate.
Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Reuben Wong, Associate Professor and Deputy Head of the Political Science Department at NUS, speaking to us from Singapore. Thank you.